Thank you, CSCAA, for inviting me to be a spokesperson on behalf of strength training for swimmers. And also thank you, Coach, for listening into this presentation virtually. I know you've been sitting in and listening to many presentations, so I hope I will make this worth your while by giving you 9 rotational strength exercises to help develop swimmers outside of the pool to swim faster and reduce their risks of injury. Because I was a swimmer and I had terrible back pain, a little bit of shoulder pain, and I remember feeling frustrated, confused, hopeless at some times, wondering if I was gonna bounce back from my injury. And I know so many swimmers are still struggling, and I wanted to compile in, and even though we know that swimmers are very individualistic and every body is different, these 9 movements will help solve most of your problems, and it may even help expose some underlying issues that swimmers may have, then that we can actually go and address it with the athletic trainer. A little background and context behind who I am. My name is Deniz Hekmati. I am a performance coach and I have worked with swimmers for now over 8 years. And I finished my swimming career at Arizona State University after moving from Sweden. I went to the University of Utah, where I was their graduate assistant coach for 2 years and full-time for another year, working with their swimming and diving team as their strength coach. And now working with Swimmer Strength, which essentially is an online portal that we help develop swimmers with smarter strength training, grounded in the notion, driven with science-backed training to then make them swim faster and actually reduce their risks of injury. There are 3 main reasons I have chosen to go with a rotational based theme here today. Number 1, swimming is majority rotational based, except for butterfly and breaststroke. However, number 2, if we develop rotational efficiency, rotational strength, that tends to help solve a lot of movement deficiencies. So breaststrokers and butterflyers, they may actually feel like they are unlocking some unhidden potential here. Number 3, there simply is a lack of quality rotational movements covering the spectrum of stability, mobility, but also strength and power. So today we're gonna go over 9 exercises. They are the half kneeling flow, rolling cat camel, pike rolls, reverse and forward lunge with T-spine rotation, squat, band to T-spine rotation, dumbbell or kettlebell, half kneeling press to windmill, front foot elevated, pole rotating isometric split squat, landmine rotating press, and a band rotating step row. As you can tell, there is going to be a wide range of movements here, ranging from both flexibility to mobility, stability, strength, and even power. What I will not go over here is strength endurance and power endurance, but looking at this spectrum, we can actually structure, and this is the way we actually like to structure movement progressions and even progressions throughout a seasonal plan. So we want to genuinely start developing flexibility, but we do know that many swimmers need to or don't need to do this. They can actually skip this step, but then we do have to get the body controlled in certain positions. That's when mobility and stability comes into play before we graduate into focusing and developing strength and power. So today we're going to go through and look at all of these spectrums except minus the strength endurance and the power endurance. But now let's dig right into number 1. I'm calling the first movement the half kneeling flow, and what we're doing here is about a 2.5 minute flexibility mobility routine for both the hip flexors, obliques, lats, and hamstrings here together. And what we're doing in this half kneeling position is to first uncoil the body, breathe in, open up, and then going into the classic hip flexor stretch, but we are also reaching up a little bit, finding the lats, perhaps the obliques. And if we want to do a little deeper stretch, we can actually interlock our fingers behind our head here. Take some deep breaths here and roll through different positions, and then come back out, uncoil, take a deep breath in and breathe out, and find another position where the body wants to loosen up a little bit more, where we're finding tension. The key position is to engage the glute in the back, and once we're done with those 3 repetitions, reach in with the opposite hand towards the toe and the foot in front, and here we're going to find the lat and also the opposite hamstring while we are rocking back and forth, extending the knee essentially here, and taking a deep breath in each position, and like we are essentially pulling the foot towards us to get some engagement in the lats as well. And now as we are switching, I briefly mentioned it, bottom toe here on the ground, engaging the glute here with the knee on the ground as we are pushing the hips forward. And we're going to target here hip flexors and also quads, and each swimmer will be a little different here where they are feeling most of a stretch. Same thing if it's going to be more on the oblique or more on the lats, perhaps even the triceps as we are rotating and rolling away. So whatever the swimmer is feeling here, just let the body talk here and move accordingly with some deep breaths. And as you can tell, it's a little yoga influenced. We are moving through it with some breaths, but also contracting here in different positions, so we're not getting too relaxed. After those 3 repetitions, we will again reach out with the hand in towards our toe, and like I said, gently pulling the foot out, shoulder blades pulling down, we get some more engagement in the lat, and then hunching forward, straightening out the spine. Same thing with the knee here. So we're getting the entire body here ready to perform, whether we are doing rotational movements in the weight room or jumping in the water here. So this is quick, simple 2.5 minutes to get the body ready in a very effective and efficient way that saves a lot of time. Next, I will be showing you a variation of a classic cat-camel or cat-cow. You may have heard of it, but now we're rolling through here the entire spine essentially. So as we are flexing and extending, bending and arching the spine, we're also rolling through different positions. Important when we're going in and out of the walls. I understand that we don't swim necessarily in these positions, but what we're doing here is we're helping the viscosity in our discs a little bit more. We're helping us feel both the abs, obliques, the rib cage, and also the entire postural muscles here in a different way, and also warming it up in all different positions for the swimmer to be ready to perform here as we are getting into the workout too. After that, we are pushing ourselves back into a downward dog position, but it's rotational themed today. So we will be doing some rolls here. So as we're pushing the heels down, loosening up, getting our body as tall and flat as we can, we will be making some circles here, both clockwise and counterclockwise, and pressure will go from one hand over to another. And the emphasis here is to keep our neck as long as possible. If swimmers are feeling anything that is pinchy here, that is exposing weaknesses, that needs to be addressed. So into the training room and address it. Healthy shoulders should be able to roll through in these positions with no problem. And to decompress here, I always love to go into a child's pose and roll through and rotate a little bit extra to loosen up the lats and reach forward with the fingertips to get a little bit taller here right after that. Exercise number 4 is a set of lunges, both forward and reverse, in combination with T-spine rotations. So we're going to start by taking a reverse lunge, step and rotate away from the hip, trying to get as close to the heel as possible with the hand, going into a forward lunge, and then hand comes down and we are rotating up to the sky as well. And we're going to flow through these movements to connect the entire kinetic chain, the cross body connection here, and we are keeping the tension here as we're going into the reverse lunge and forward lunge. Let's bring the knee down to the ground and focus on the true T-spine rotation. The reverse lunge makes us focus a little bit more on the hip flexors and also opening up the rib cage, as we are more focusing on the T-spine as we're coming into the front lunge. And it's easy for swimmers to lose balance here. Swimmers typically don't have that good relationship to the ground, so an excellent movement to really mix up both of the best worlds of lunging and also rotating and mobilizing the T-spine that we like to do here. But again, we are warming up, we are stabilizing and mobilizing the entire body here. And the most important thing here is to find a good flow. As we're going and reaching to the back heel, glutes are engaged and we're not overarching the lower back. If we have low back problems, if we overdo this reach, we can actually feel a little bit of a pinch in the back here. I'm just talking for my own experiences, but it is normal for some swimmers. So just when we're going through this nice and slow controlled motions, and as we're getting closer to any kind of meets, we can actually speed this up a little bit more. Poor ways of doing this movement would be to just take a step out, being unmindful, going through it without any tension, overarching the lower back and super reaching and going in and kind of hunching the spine, over rotating in the T-spine position. So always we want to maintain as long of a neck as possible when we are reaching and lunging in both directions. Number 5 is a squatted band T-spine. I am using a super band here, but you can use whatever you have handy, and you can even start without any bands here. But we have in a squatted position, knuckles on the ground, and we are simply pulling the band and rotating up towards the sky, initiating the pull here from the shoulder blades while keeping the tension evenly on the feet, making sure that we are not compensating the stance of our legs. And if the swimmers feel like this is tough, have them stand up, shake it out, and come back in. You can either do it with one strap or with 2 straps. The harder or the more resistance we're putting on here, the more we're actually working on mobilizing and strengthening this rotational spot as well. We don't want to keep our hips up. We don't want to get our shoulders in towards our ears. We always have to maintain as good of a squat position as possible, knees in line where the toes are, shoulder blades are together and down before we are actually starting to make this pull. And always focus on the hand, reach up and follow the hand and punch away and reach up as high as we possibly can. We don't want to rotate our shoulder in towards our neck either when we are up here. We don't want to bend our wrist. We always want to keep our wrist rigid in one line and punch it up to the sky. So far, the movements have been a healthy hybrid mix of both stability and mobility, as you can tell. Now we're going to move up and add a little bit more strength into the mix with a half kneeling press into a windmill. And I'm going to show you doing this with a kettlebell. You can do it with a dumbbell as well, and also with a medicine ball. From a half kneeling position, we are grabbing a kettlebell with the same hand that the leg is on the ground. Knuckle is pointing straight up. The knee is in line with the toe, and we are keeping the bottom leg, the toe on the ground. Pressing the kettlebell up, gently coming down to the side, touching the hand on the ground and coming back down with the kettlebell. As we're pressing up, this press should not be very heavy, and we should not put too much tension and pressure on the hand or the arm as we're coming down to the ground. So if it's not too crazy challenging to come down with the fingertips, have the swimmers slide down a little bit further. See how close the elbow can get down to the ground without losing any tension in the knee or in the shoulder. So we're always keeping punching the kettlebell away and the knee in line where the toe is at all times. And as you're coming up, we are engaging both the hips and the obliques to come up as straight as possible. And this, my friends, are one of the most underestimated movements to me to keep the shoulders healthy and also the entire shoulder blade and spine mobile. This is something that I wish I was doing more of when I was in college, but looking at where my swimmers have gone, they are eliminating a lot of shoulder pain and getting more ready for work to be done upper body here. And it's a lot about control, stability, nothing that is powerful here. So the more control we have coming down, the better. The only powerful movement would be the faster we are punching the kettlebell up, the more powerful we are. Now, If this movement is too challenging for some swimmers and the kettlebell is just too heavy, we will actually grab a medicine ball instead. And with the medicine ball, it is essentially the same position, but now we're cupping and holding the medicine ball in front of the body as we are sliding it over our head, punching it up and keeping it over our head as far as we can as we are continuing the same patterns back in. And this is still going to be a little bit more challenging on the wrists and the fingers to keep the ball in that position. And you can move up into the medicine balls that you have available. And once the swimmer is ready for something heavier, such as a dumbbell or kettlebell, that would be on you as a coach and the swimmer to progress into when they are ready. The next exercise, number 7, is a front foot elevated pole isometric rotating split squat. And the setup for this is that we're using 1 or 2 plates and placing a barbell in the middle of them. But whatever you have to use some sort of a pole, that's what we need for this exercise. It will be wise to use something to place the back knee on, and place the front foot close to the barbell and press the knee in towards the pole as well. And the reason we have this elevation is because as we are getting up here, we are feeling the hip flexors a lot, and swimmers, we tend to get a little tight here. So the movement begins by opening up here as we did earlier, and then standing up into the split squat position and pressing in to the pole for about 3 to 5 seconds. Open back up again, take a deep breath in, knee comes down, and then stand back up, and knee pushing into the pole, middle of the foot in the front leg, and then press hard into the pole and uncoil again. And we're going to do 3 repetitions here. That's going to be just enough, and really push through this pole. Make sure that the body is rotating without hunching the spine or the shoulder blades are elevating. And then gently, let's switch up the legs here. And this is a really underestimated movement, you guys. We are generating a lot of force. So now we are not only working stability and mobility, but emphasizing strength first and foremost. Uncoiling, getting both the legs active here and the entire core and the kinetic chain working together. So not only we're getting the hips, but the adductors, the inside thighs. Good for breaststrokers, so it doesn't have to be just freestylers and backstrokers doing this stuff to actually benefit from it. And then 1 more repetition, taking a deep breath in and standing up. And just 3 repetitions of 5 seconds on each side is challenging for swimmers and highly underestimated. And from here, you can go in and pair it up with something more powerful and a little lighter. Next, let's shift in towards adding power to our rotational theme, because some exercises out there are also lacking to incorporate powerful movements for the upper body, especially when we are a little bit more overhead. So here we're going to do a landmine rotating press. The landmine is simply a method of using the barbell by fixating it onto something that is locked so we can use it as a long lever in free ranges. And I'm always going to remind you how you are picking up a barbell or anything needs to be with a flat spine, beautiful pressure in the middle of your foot. And we're going to go out sideways here, and we're going to place 1 foot in front of the other. We're going to press the barbell out so we can get into the position we want to finish, which is essentially similar to a split jerk position. We don't want to have the toe too far out. A little bit in is okay. We have more stability there, and ends up being back leg a little bit in front of the front leg. So we're going to press through the outside leg, push and rotate, and end up in essentially a split jerk position with the barbell in front of us. So again, before you start the movement, make sure you are keeping the barbell in front of us, keeping it in a long position with our hip essentially as long as possible. So we're pushing with the outside leg, rotating out and getting into a contralateral stance that's similar to weightlifting. And once we're ready with that, we can now add a little bit more weight and work on developing power. And this is how that would look like. Developing power here for this movement. Important that we are understanding the positions and getting stronger when we are bringing the bar back down into the position. So you see how my legs are sliding and pushing from the outside, ending up then putting pressure on the front leg then afterwards. So we are really transferring and shifting the weight and the power from the outside leg in towards the hand, pop, and then we're also landing and absorbing all of the weight. And the heavier it gets, the faster we move. It's easy for swimmers to sometimes lose a little bit of a balance here and sway side to side. It's really important that we are keeping engagement throughout the entire spine and that we are engaging the connection and not jumping too far out with our feet. So it's essentially a little slide. It's not a jump, it's a gentle slide, keeping the barbell close to the chest as we are pushing through and sliding the body out and ending up at the finished position. And the last movement I want to leave you with is number 9, a band rotating step row. Here I have fixated a super band high up on a pull-up bar, but you can also use a cable machine, whatever you have handy. And the reason I'm doing high to low is that we are swimming and pulling essentially in that spot. So moving through here and looking at how to execute this, grabbing onto either the cable or the band, we will be taking a step here. So we want tension on the band and want the opposite foot in front, because then we're going to step away here with the opposite leg, take a step, and then add the row into a rotation. So here I am practicing the step and slide before I'm pulling in. Again, you don't want to go powerful or work on strength before you have an idea of what the positions are like. So what I did here is essentially get my body used to how to step, control my body back into the starting position, and then connect the entire kinetic chain. So again, we're getting into a little stretch position here, have tension on the band or the cable, then step away with the same leg, put pressure on the opposite leg, and then staying in the middle of your feet as you're flowing through and absorbing the pressure and rowing it in towards the sternum and chest and keeping the hand close to the body. As we're coming out and reaching out, I always recommend you guys to control the weight down so we're not letting the band control the body. So bad ways that we can do this is to simply lose tension. We're going through this really quickly. We're forgetting about the step and we are essentially letting the shoulders just come back quickly. And if we do that, we can hurt ourselves. So this is a good example of having one exercise that can be beneficial for us, but also can be bad for us if we're doing it in a bad way. So always be patient, step into this, and then connect both the outside leg with the row and the upper body. Those are my 9 rotational strength exercises for you guys. That covers a broad spectrum of the physical qualities that we need to see in swimmers. And if this topic interests you, please visit swimmerstrength.com and you will find a lot more information there. We have just launched our database where coaches can actually go in and build their own workouts and invite their swimmers onto the platform to share and watch our instructional videos similar to what you just saw, voice-overed, where you can get all of the important cues and how to progress swimmers from the basic exercises all the way up to the most advanced level exercises, going from medicine ball exercises all the way to weightlifting progressions. So we are continually building this platform where we are giving coaches freedom of creating their workouts, but also getting the proper coaching cues of how to actually teach these to the swimmers, and a lot more expert tips of how to fix the front squats in swimmers and how to get our first pull-up, and a lot more. I also authored Foundations of Strength Training for Swimmers, available on Amazon, and if you are more curious about these topics, I'm covering 10 chapters ranging from the core, explosive plyometric training, streamline, injuries, testing, how we treat hypermobile versus stiff swimmers, and so much more. I appreciate you taking your time sitting here listening to my virtual presentation. Thank you CSCAA for this wonderful opportunity. My name is Deniz Hekmati. I'm signing off.